I know him because I am part of the MSA film department.
He was my teacher last year and is this year.
He saved my life.
Mr. O has been my film teacher for about 3 years now.
How long have I felt like I've known him? Probably a month or two, maybe. Yeah.
I've known him since I was a little lad.
I met Mr. O for the first time my first day of high school in freshman year.
When I came into MSA, I was very sort of lost. But then when I came into the classroom, Mr. O, he just came in and he just spread this sort of warmth over everything.
I think he's a wonderful person. He's got a great sense of humour, he's kind, he's generous with his time, and his students love him. I think he's an excellent teacher.
I was in the tech theatre class, and oftentimes he came and helped us. We did a filming project.
The first time I met Mr. O, he had a very dry sense of humor, and I thought he was just really, really mean. And obviously he's not. He's actually hilarious, but he's also very dry. He needs a lotion.
Yeah, it started for me. I just saw him as like a teacher figure, like an older man teacher figure. I didn't really know him. He was new to the school just as we were, and he was just. I just remember him talking to all the parents, and he was just like, I'm new here. I'm trying to figure it out as well, and I felt the same way when I met O.
When I first did MSA, when I did audition, it was great because I came in literally 10 minutes late to my audition, and I was freaking out because everyone was done. And my audition, it was wonderful because everyone got to leave, and I literally had an hour audition with him, and it was the best thing.
People would say that I met him when I first came to MSA, when I first was accepted and he replaced Mr. Tucker. But I like to think that I knew him before, that in my mind and in my past lives, because you see I believe in reincarnation, that in my past lives we were friends, brothers maybe even, and we trekked across the mountains together trying to find the true meaning of life.
Well, I had already previously seen him in a film made by a student. When I saw him, I was a little scared because he played this really scary dude.
You're so self-centered. You're not the only one.
So I was a little bit frightened, but then I saw, he's just a normal little dude.
When I first met him, I must admit, I didn't like him. But then I realized the only reason I didn't like him was because I was being blinded by the light. It's like when people look up at the sun for the first time and they don't like it because it's too bright. But then they start to realize it's the reason that we live.
Every year I learn something new about him, and every day he has another story and another experience about his time at CNN or, traveling the world. And we talk about history and politics and, religion. He's played God in my videos.
You may feel alone in your suffering, but soon your sickliness will begin to infect others. And unless you find a cure for this ghastly disease, humanity will be doomed!
The first time I met Mr. Ornstein, it was definitely a real thrill. His glasses reflecting sunlight at just the right angle. And I think that was probably when I thought, I would love to know this man.
Who did you?
I thought, sincerely, I thought he was an angel.
When I first saw Mr. O, I was immediately hooked. As when I saw into those big blue curly locks of his and those beaming perfectionate eyes, I was blown away. My knees were shaking, my pulse was running, eyes were dilating. It was beautiful. It was just amazing.
Sound like this? Is this disturbing? Is this a bit disturbing?
This is me and Ornstein at the clubs every weekend.
Can I get in on this?
What does Mr. Ornstein do? What doesn't Mr. Ornstein do?
He makes tea. He loves cats. He looks at a lot of cats and not much else.
He nurses baby deer back to health after they are hit by cars.
Think of one thing in your mind and think, now can a human do that? I'll tell you what, Mr. O can. Because Mr. O can not only create a classroom that is both diverse and hilarious, but but he can also break the fundamental laws of human nature to create what we think of as beauty.
If he were a food, he would be yogurt.
He's the film guy.
I've never met him. But I imagine he's great.
He has white hair that is very majestic and soft. Don't ask me how I know. And his glasses are really great. They're like round, but then they have like the weird floopy bit at the end.
Mr. O has the eyes of a goddess. He has the legs of an Arabian princess. He's got the age and experience of over 2,000 men's worth's lifetime, all in the subtle pores of his face. And you can really see, not just in his appearance, but in the way he rests his form, that he knows a lot. And not just a lot, he knows more than you. And if you're nice, and if you play your cards right, he'll teach you that. He'll teach you hard.
6'2". He probably has half of a head of hair.
Very slender, curvy.
Human. He's a human.
He's like a skinny George Lucas with the wit of a sassy 17-year-old girl.
Sort of slouches over when he walks.
Yes.
It's kind of like intimidating. It's intimidating, but you know he's wise.
Yeah.
You know he's
yeah.
this like wise figure because he's slouched, and you know he has years on him, and you just know
The limp.
The sometimes limp, like slower walk, like
Yeah.
you know there's knowledge in that head.
He has a very seductive voice that just makes you tantalize about his comb over.
And then we can talk about the beard.
The beard.
The beard.
The beard
is...
phase.
Mr. Ornstein's beard is 10 times more glorious than Franz's.
He recently has a beard and mustache. It's a good look for him. You know, it's the winter, you gotta stay warm.
The first beard was after Mr. O's surgery.
Yeah.
That was a rough time.
It was really scary, actually.
We
were really afraid.
We had Mr. Peckins for a couple months.
Yeah.
And that was difficult because
we were deprived of O.
And we didn't have O, and we didn't have his knowledge, his endless knowledge. And we were missing that aspect. And
our films really suffered, I want to say.
They did. It was a rough semester of film. But when he came back, beard and all, he reminded us all of Indiana Jones. Yeah, he seemed like a nice, wise old Indian.
I think that really cemented our love for him the first time.
Yeah.
Just you know, the beard really, he could just be so human about it.
He is kind, he is smart, he is important.
I think that Mr. O is definitely a really fantastic person. Great personality, definitely wide range of talents.
Love. Light. True compassion. True genius. Wrapped inside of a amazing custom-made shirt, a beautiful tie, and a beard that makes even Santa weep.
Well, I think he's a pretty cool suave man about town. He's one of the few people that Mr. Franz just listens to, which is pretty cool. And he just kind of has an easy grace about him that is unmatched by any of the men in the school, I'd say.
Yeah, and so that way it'll work fine with you.
One word to describe Mr. O. Without getting too emotional, I would say Messiah.
Life. Mr. Ornstein is life.
In one word, Mr. Ornstein is gloriam. He is gloriam.
One word? Fucker.
Jedi.
Sorry, gilf.
I'm gonna say rambunctious.
Bigfoot. Seductive. Tantalizing. Asperger's.
My word for Mr. O has got to be all. Because he is all is O. He's just, as O's laws of existence tell us, he's part of everything. He's part of everyone. We all feel a connection through each other to O. it's a huge connecting force in our community, in our class, in our films.
One of the best memories I have of Mr. O is when we met the Queen of England. She invited Mr. O to her royal gala, saying, "Mr. Ornstein, we need you." And he said, "Don't worry, I got this." And he invited me along simply because I was there. It was a rather amazing experience. We went black tie and all. But for me personally, what he's done is he's taught me truly how to live. He's shown me that there's more to life, and that there is even more to film than what people say there is.
So there was this one day, because he always talks to me about his 4th period class last year being super rowdy and just out there. And one day before 4th period started, I drew him on the board as a horse, and he was pretty animated about that.
We went on a very warm fishing trip together. He taught me how to fly fish in the river. We caught a fish this big.
In the next 50 years, I think Mr. O is probably going to, become an even better teacher than he is today.
I see Mr. O dominating over every major country in the world. I think once the world is in the O's hands, which it will be, things will be a better place. Not just for me or you, but even for people like Hitler.
Most people would think, oh, he's an old person, he'll be dead. No. Mr. O is immortal. He is in fact 492,000 years old. He has seen more than any of us ever will. He was there at the dawn of time and he said, "Hey, God, put it there." And he did. And you know what that made? Earth. It's not Adam and Eve, it's Ornstein and Ornstein.
When you think about it, why do you think there are no photographs about when there was a time before Mr. O? Because, simply, there was no life. And you think, oh, fossils and carbon dating. No, those are hoaxes by the government trying to make you believe something that's not real. Trying to make you believe that Mr. O didn't create life. Because you see, there is no life if there was no O.
The word Ornstein, I think... I would think it's some magical spell name, and it means something like... Gee, I don't know. He's from the wizard realm, that's all I know.
It definitely sounds sort of Chinese, maybe a little bit Slavic in nature.
I believe Ornstein comes from, like, if you got every single name on Earth and in Earth's history, and put it all together, it would sort of sound like Ornstein.
The old settlers used to use it when they ran into combat and they screamed, "Ornstein!" And that's when you knew it got serious.
I heard that before Mr. O came and taught at MSA, he was out there in the plains of Africa just feeding all the children and teaching them how to use Avid and After Effects.
I think he robbed banks for a living, and he lived the high life, snorting coke and f***ing bitches. But then he got caught by the CIA, and then they gave him a deal. They said, look, you can rat out on your homies, or you can go to jail. So he ratted out, and now he's undercover, working as a film student teacher that has worked at CNN for 25 years or so. And now he's undercover, and now the mafia found him, and now he's got to fight him with his guns.
Before Mr. O came to teach MSA, he probably was a dinosaur hunter.
I think that Mr. O's family, their family history, making pastries, is what they do.
They rose from the ashes and just started an underground empire of nerd.
Well, they came down from the moon and ascended into Earth, where they colonized Earth, making it Ornstein land.
Like I said, they were in Imperial Japan, so they were a samurai clan until their rival clan, the Wolfleys, decided to take over, and they said, you Ornsteins better get out of here. So they migrated to the US of Canada, and they settled. And then they moved to US because Canada likes maple leaves, and they're allergic.
Who do I think Mr. O in his childhood? Well, who do I think Jesus was when he was a child?
Well, he was raised by a group of rocks. That's where his humor comes from.
I think Mr. Ornstein was like, I wouldn't say like an average Joe, but he was just one of those kids that when you see them, like you just want to be with and you want to get to know them more.
When he was a child, I think he was a spry little lad that loved film and horses.
I bet you all of his teachers simply gave him A's for his smile. He sat in the back of class, or even the front of class even. No matter where he sat, people were focused on him. All through kindergarten, all through middle school, all through every grade, he was the one teaching. The teachers didn't even know the stuff he was discussing with the class.
Well, when I picture Mr. O as a child, I just picture his face on a, baby.
Like, we represented O as a child with this little boy crouched in a corner, just needing more from life.
He just understood that life could be so much greater than how it was presented to him, and he really strove to create that for himself.
That's what his life and film gave him.
Of course he's a teacher, but can a real teacher touch you? Right here in the heart?
He's more of a spiritual leader more than a teacher.
Mr. O is definitely more than a teacher. Mr. O is to a teacher as ladders are to a stool.
I think of Mr. O as I do when I believed in God, you see. And the reason why I became an atheist is because how can a God exist, in heaven when he's here in front of us? When he's right here and we're looking at him every day. That's God.
I look up to him like as a teacher, as a good mentor, But like I said, he's like family. You can't leave family behind. I mean, So if he was to go, let's say tomorrow, and teach that somewhere else, it'd be heartbreaking. It really would.
Without Mr. O in my life, I'd probably be dead. He has saved me from so many things. He is the reason I'm thin. I used to be over 400 pounds. I couldn't walk. They had to make doors for me. My hair, I was bald when I met him. And blind.
He's probably made me love film a lot more and appreciate it more, and he's probably made me less full of myself.
Mr. O gave me a clipboard. That was probably the highlight of my film career.
Mr. O has changed my life, I'd say, in a good way. Like, the way I think about film. Because before him, and before joining MSA, I didn't really, have that much of a clue about film. I thought it was just you take a camera, shoot something that you wrote about, which there's more to it, and he taught me about that. He cares. He generally cares. People who enter this department of MSA, he wants them to do their best. And I guess that kind of shows how life is, because, in life there's going to be ups and downs.
He is my God. I will forever pray to him. I will forever make sure my life is centered around that man. He is my life coach. He is my father. He is my brother. He is my friend.
Mr. Ornstein to me is like a flower. Gentle, sweet.
To me specifically, Ornstein is a mentor of life, a life mentor.
To me, Grandpa.
Mr. O is everything. Mr. O is the parents I never had. Mr. O is the guiding force in my life. Mr. O is good against all the bad of us.
He's taught me a lot about film. I thought he's a really great teacher, and I want him to be my teacher forever.
O makes me feel like I'm important and that I belong.
I've never had a teacher that's really pushed me to want me to do what I wanted to do, and Mr. O has. He's definitely the most inspirational and amazing teacher I've ever had, and I love him a lot. and I don't know how my high school career would be going if he wasn't in it. I love you, Mr. O.
I want it to be as sort of standard science. Run, you lanky bastard! Alright. I'll do it again.
I feel like my